after, production was over. And she told me that Timeless right now is not happy with how the situation, or what the situation is at RPG. And mostly due to the fact that whenever they lose, which admittedly RPG did a lot throughout this phase already, the team would usually end up blaming him, right? Timeless is a very vocal player. He sometimes likes to do his own thing. He likes to go for his own talent builds. He likes to go for his own heroes in the draft. But normally it would be the teammates saying, Timeless, you're too aggressive. You're too selfish on the way you play, and that's why we couldn't win. And he found that was a little unfair. So right now, the mood in the team is a little bit down, but maybe they were able to fix those things over the weekend. But just to give you guys a little bit of insight, Timeless not really feeling that happy, not really feeling that well. Maybe today will be the games in which he proves all the critics wrong.
I mean, I kind of agree with the sentiment that I personally think a lot of Timeless's deaths come from him playing too aggressively.
Okay, I mean, he was kind of criticized for that when he was a legendary Hero League warrior, right? Oftentimes when you had him in your team, you were like, okay, this could either go really well or really poorly if one of those butcher picks goes through and doesn't do anything because the enemy team was just too good at countering that hero pick. So, Timeless, a double-edged sword, an absolute prodigy. Don't get me wrong, he's one of the strongest players technically, mechanically, but sometimes he likes to do his own thing, and that oftentimes not only that doesn't always go well. Let's put it this way.
For now, Medivh becoming the first ban by RPG, very sensible. Melody C is quite the god, so you better remove that kind of terrifying option from him.
Now, the Medivh could lead towards a blow-up comp by RPG, right? Medivh, oftentimes the strongest here to counter even that approach for two reasons. Leyline Seal could actually stop any follow-up damage from, let's say, lockdown like Gyash. They could even go for something like Zeratul. And of course, the Will of Force also so powerful. So getting Medivh out of the way seems good to me. We're playing on Dragonshire, don't we, by the way?
Yes, we are, I believe.
And that is SPT's best map, right?
Yes, because they did lose on Battlefield. So yes, this is still technically their best map in general, which is pretty beastly and not too surprising because outside of international tournaments, SPT have got this pretty much down. As we do see the Genji being banned out. They don't want to play against it, and the opponents had first pick with Medivh being banned out. It was a good chance they were targeting Melody C, so it was a good chance they would pick up the Genji. Melody C has a lot more heroes he can play, so it makes sense to remove that scary Genji.
Yeah, I think now that you're bringing up Melody C, it's always cool to see these duels between exceptionally gifted players from a mechanical point of view, right? We have a little bit of a rivalry going on now, Timeless against Melody C, who's going to be able to impress us more. And that's really cool about China as a region in general. They have these individual playmakers on almost every single game, right? You think of teams like Alufal, like CE, you have Alufal there. The One has Hugo. Timeless is an RPG. We have Melody C on SPT. So every team has their own big playmaker. And oftentimes the difference between victory and defeat is whose playmaker is showing up bigger in that game.
This is true. And RPG, we will say, they have a lot of playmakers. Chicken, for example, has always been kind of a playmaker for his team. Now on a more assassin-like role, more ranged role, as opposed to his previous, I am a sort of off-tank melee assassin style of hero, which seems to be the role picked up by Timeless now, who once again, as you have said, another very good playmaker. They've got lots of options.
Thrall being locked in. That is most certainly going to be Misaka's pick for SPT. And we see Zeratul and Greymane. Now we start to understand a little more why that Medivh ban came through, right? Already that is so much burst damage coming in from Zeratul and Greymane. If they focus on the same target, it would be so annoying to constantly face Medivh portals to save that target, or the Wave of Force preventing all, the Will of Force preventing all the damage here. Now, what RPG still needs is a main tank and maybe an offlaner if Zeratul wants to be a little bit more active on the map. Of course, Zeratul can be the solo laner, but while he can win a lane, he normally doesn't lose it either because he has so much mobility to escape, and of course the stealth allowing him to soak, let's say, from a bush or behind the towers.
Can also pretty decent wave clear, so we can protect the towers once the minion waves make it to him. It is just the lack of sustain that Zeratul can have issues with until he gets those mending strikes a little bit later on.
Yeah, that is, of course, the ultimate power spike of every Zeratul that goes for the cleave build. The Mending Strikes, as you said, so much self-healing. After VP, you dive in, hit a W, hit 3 or 4 enemy heroes, and for the rest of the team fight, you're probably not going to die anytime soon. Now, second ban's coming in. How much is RPG committing to this burst damage blow-up composition? The Sonya, I like that quite a bit, because up to this point, they don't really have any dedicated tank shredding. They don't really have any dedicated interrupter, with the exception of Uther. And quite frankly, Uther, if he's the only one to interrupt the Sonya, you're oftentimes missing out on other spots, right? You're oftentimes missing out for peeling. You're oftentimes missing out for catching people. So I don't really hate the Sonya ban. She's just so strong at the moment.
Very true. She is the solo laner, so it makes a lot of sense to get rid of her here. If you do intend on playing Zeratul in the solo lane, which they want to keep their options open to do, you don't want it to get absolutely destroyed. So having the Sonya removed, there's still some really solid solo laners that will give Zeratul problems, but it's definitely the one that is the biggest threat removed.
I just want to see a little bit more Dehaka, to be honest, Tetra. I think Dehaka is so underrated at the moment, and the only team that really seems to consistently rely on him is Ballistic still, with Zhongha being so good on that hero, winning the Eastern Clash actually with it as well. So I don't know what it is about teams in China and the other regions that don't really seem to like Dehaka that much anymore.
Here comes the Blaze for SPT, so they have their double tank lineup. No Dehaka, but seem to be very comfortable with that with that fire bat, able to put on so much pressure into the lane itself.
Yeah, and Blaze, of course, needs to be mentioned here as well, because while he is such a common sight in other regions like Europe and Korea, for example, in China there's only a handful of teams who play him very well, and as a result play him very, very frequently. And SPT is one of those, with Soap on that Blaze, oftentimes going for his own ways of building him, but usually resulting in them a couple of good games and good results, because Blaze, although the bunker was slightly nerfed recently, is still such a staple. It's strong against burst damage, against VP. If all people just hop into the bunker after the VP expires, you're probably going to make sure that none of the follow-up damage or CC potential is going to come through. And of course, the wave clear he brings to the table is also nothing to be sneezed at. So I really like SPT's draft, but here comes the Leoric, and Tetra. Leoric is one of the few heroes that can actually lane very well against the Blaze, and that can actually put him, you know, in the defense.
That is true. Being able to drain on that Blaze, assuming Blaze is also going to sustain pretty well just due to being able to stand in his own fire and heal up, but he's never going to be able to kill Leoric without help. And currently, Hanzo is okay at joining for roaming damage, but the hero for SPT that would really be the I am arriving in your lane to pick up a kill is so far not here yet. It will have to be picked in this last spot.
What I really like about this Hanzo, as well, is the fact that he's one of the few heroes that can actually mess or even overtake a Greymane in terms of clearing speed on the mercenary camps. So while Greymane is good at that, Hanzo, especially if he picks up the PvE towns, at level 4, is easily going to outrace him. So there should always be that one hero to have a little bit of a counterweight to potential mercenary pushes early on with the Greymane. So that's certainly cool to see. Now they could use a mage. They could also go for a Tracer. Interesting. No Malfurion, no Tassadar available. I would have preferred the likes of Gul'dan, for example, for a little bit more wave clear, which is something that RPG lacks a little bit, with the exception of Johanna. So Tracer, of course, doesn't really have the greatest of wave clears, but she applies a little bit of pressure there.
Yes, she does. There's no burst engage onto her currently. With once again Johanna being like the main engage tool. Johanna and Leoric together have consistently not the best engage style unless you go in Tomb, which you kind of have to if you want any hope of actually locking down anyone. Tracer is someone who's not going to worry about that. Being able to recall out of an Entomb pretty easily until Buried Alive is picked, because Buried Alive's really good. But she still has to be concerned about Greymane and Zeratul. The burst damage those two can offer together can be a huge counter to a Tracer if she still is going for that more all-in style. It only takes one auto attack from a Zeratul to have an easy time keeping up with Tracer for a while.
Yeah, and the same goes for Hanzo, of course, right? The backlane for SPT is extremely vulnerable to all those flanking attempts, to all those bursting attempts coming in from RPG. By the same token, though, I want to highlight the interesting fact about the way Tracer was drafted here. It was the very last pick, so no longer is Tracer that first pick. We're going to pick her no matter what. She's so good right now. We're going to blow people up. She's so safe to play. But now she's more of a last pick to really, determine, okay, how many potential counters does the enemy team have? Are we going to get away with picking Tracer in the first place? Looks like SPT was saying, yes, we do. There is no variant available. There's no taunt. There's no lurking arm available this time for the enemy team, which could easily shut her down. So as you said, Tetra, the only thing that Tracer needs to be on the lookout for potentially is the VP. But we're going to find out how that Tracer is going to fare in game number 1 between SPT and RPG. And representing the blue trunks, on the left-hand side, we've got RPG with Chicken on the Leoric. MJ plays Uther, Saz on the Zeratul, C is on Johanna, and Timeless on the Greymane.
And on the right-hand side, we have SPT with Molly on the Hanzo, MLDC on the Tracer, Misaka on Garrosh, Soap on Blaze, and ZZH. He is playing the Stukov.
Okay, I'm looking forward to watching 2 players from the side of SPT in particular. Soap's Blaze, which I think is amazing to watch because he's one of the few Blazes in HGC China, and then Melody C on that Tracer. Tracer has had mixed results as of late. Last week she was pretty okay, but towards the end of last week and today, she was getting utterly destroyed consecutively. So can Melody C, with all the mechanical prowess that he has, finally start to change the trend maybe?
We shall have to see. Or maybe he will take something out of Timeless's book and risk the untouchable if you can't really get turned on and blown up if you don't all in.
Going full Timeless, taking every quest talent you can possibly find. I like the idea of it. Normally RPG, they're trying to basically predict and spot any early mercenary camp attempts here. Mercenaries are going to spawn very shortly. So knowing which camp the enemy team is going for can oftentimes really help you to make, according decisions. Now, Sa, by the way, lurking in that bush, not showing himself just yet.
Being very patient. Sa, also ex-support player for RPG. Another role swap, him and Chicken both. As we see Timeless easily doing the mercenary camp here. And you mentioned the fact that they were checking to see if there were any mercenary camps being taken, any risky mercenary camps. An incredibly good and well thought out move when you're against a team like SPT. They love to invade camps. They love to do the unexpected camps because this is what they are good at. They're so good at playing the map that you should always be checking stuff because SPT could be doing it at a moment's notice.
All right, but already superior rotations by SPT, in my personal opinion. Hanzo made it to the bottom lane way quicker, which allows him to actually deal with the blue Siege Giants a little faster as well. But we see Zeratul already on the move as well. Actually, Hanzo wasn't even able to deal that much damage to the Siege Giants after all. And strong poke, strong harass by Zeratul against him. So actually RPG is holding their own quite well. Now, of course, the top rotation was a little stronger by SPT up to this point. Lyric is all by himself, but now come the reinforcements of RPG, and it looks like they're done with SPT getting all the free pushes. They're trying to turn on the heat themselves here.
Yeah, it doesn't look like they're going to be pushing due to Sa leaving here pretty quickly. Sorry, C leaving pretty quickly. But they are certainly going to try and commit to a Dragonite. In fact, there were 2 heroes in mid lane, but bot lane had already been taken by Hanzo a while ago. With an easy turnaround with that Stukov silencing arm. Lovely lurking arm there, and they were able to pick up another kill.
And ZZH, the support player of the Super Perfect team, is easily one of the best Stukovs in China. His performance has been stellar many times now. And while China normally doesn't have the flashiest of Stukov players, they don't have the Shads, for example, that Europe has. I'm not sure if that was actually intentional by Timeless, completely ignoring the channel on the Garrosh, instead going for Worgen Form and trying to follow the Stukov. That was a little bit of a interesting play there, just letting the channel go through. I mean, the first Dragonite is not really that scary, but I think that should have been an easy interrupt for Greymane, using just one of his ranged auto attacks.
Yeah, the first Dragonite is certainly going to grab a couple towers and could have been at least delayed if he had reacted in time, but this is not the case. For now, though, Dragonite picking up towers, even the gate actually going to go very far forward. This is much further forward than most Dragonites would be willing to go at this early stage in the game. Easily picks up the Fountain. So now this is going to be a... Oh my god, the commitment out of this Dragonite. Like I said, this is way more than usual.
The commitment is real, and I think it's basically designed to buy as much time for the allied team members on the side lane. So SPT already putting a lot of pressure in the top lane, in the bottom lane with Hanzo dominating the Greymane up to this point because of superior range. So this is starting to go really well for SPT already. Now Garrosh needs to be careful though. Uses the Indomitable to get out of harm's way. Well played by Misaka, getting tons of value now. This is a really good start for SPT.
As we see SPT continuing to just try and control the map, and they're able to grab even another tower in top lane. Those Spaniards, they have no health, but they have enough arrows to take down the final remaining parts of that tower. And as such, SPT, they already have a full level lead, only with 1 kill, just by playing the map and using that Dragon Knight to maximum effectiveness.
Yeah, so a little bit under pressure here, surrounded by multiple members of RPG, but as long as there's no one behind a Blaze, he can always use the jet propulsion to get to safety. Timeless getting flung over, uses the stealth, uses the escape tools that he has available, but so much damage coming in from Tracer. The chase is real, even the friendly toss by Garrosh securing the kills. And it is Timeless who falls yet again, going for the Wizened Duelist, by the way, at level 7. So going for maximum risk, maximum rewards, potentially.
This is going very, very well for SPT. I really enjoyed RPG's knowledge of SPT's style at the start of the game, but this is just SPT turning it up at every possible opportunity and punishing any kind of group up that RPG have.
Yeah, for RPG, it does really seem to click at the moment. But of course, they have a lot of powerful weapons yet to be unleashed, right? At level 10, we're going to see VPs that could really make for some strong combos. We're going to see Divine Shield protecting someone potentially against the Tracer Burst. Now, Tracer actually going for a really interesting level 10 choice. I believe that is the cooldown reduction. So we're no longer seeing the Quantum Spike, which got nerfed pretty heavily, so less percentage damage now being dealt. And instead, we see a faster charger rate for the Pulse Bomb altogether.
I believe you are right. I believe it also affects the range. I'm checking now. Pulse rounds.
Speaking of Tracer, by the way, we see a beautiful, beautiful execution, and that was the duel that we tried to talk about during the draft. Melody C versus Timeless. Two of the strongest players mechanically in the region. Up to this point, Melody C is winning it big time.
And it is, in fact, pulse rounds. As you said, the increased pulse bomb range and charge rate from basic attacks increased by 100% on attacks against heroes. So, yeah, more bombs, longer range bombs. It allows Tracer to stay a little bit safer. Parting Gift still taken, but it still allows Tracer to stay a little bit further back.
Sa not really in a position to contest this against level 10. As such, both shrines go over to SPT, but the bottom one immediately taken by C. C needs to be careful. Iron Skin is good. Here comes the engage.
Divine Shield has to be used to keep that hero alive, keep Garrosh moving as he in full retreat. There's the max range Pulse Bomb trying to take down C, but C moves away with the extra move speed from Condemn.
Now, this was all calculated by SPT. Look at their heroic abilities. Not a single one has been used. Misako was like, guys, I'm going to survive this. I'm going to live through. No problem. Don't use Bunker. Don't use Dragon's Arrow. And everything is still available now. What? I think actually the cooldowns are not showing properly. No, I think we have...
Heroic cooldowns have been having issues recently.
Maybe that's due to the new patch. So sorry, guys. I got a little excited there. You know, that was such a good play. Not even the Bunker, not even the Dragon's Arrow were used. But apparently we don't see cooldowns here today. My apologies.
We just have to be vigilant for once, as we actually have to keep an eye out and try and remember ourselves as if we're playing. As nice Wravewalk just in time for Chicken to get out of range.
All right, here comes Tracer, piloting the Dragon Knight. Unleashing all that fire, punting away the Greymane, which is a very smart call. Greymane offers most damage against the Dragon Knight, so always punt that target away that threatens you the most, and that is going to take you down the quickest. And there's just nothing RPG can do right now. They can't really find an engage. They probably still have cooldowns on their most important engaging abilities, like the Entomb. So that Dragon Knight is just going to take an 8-minute keep.
Which is pretty good. Just in time as the Dragon Knight falls as well. Zeratul, there's the Entomb. Once again on Misaka. The Blessed Shield does not land. The Lurking Arm is super good. Voidbits are trying to trap 2 members, but they still can't blow up Garrosh. They're trying to engage onto the tankiest member.
Exactly. Stukov, Garrosh, the front line is just too strong right now. Johanna surviving once more. Strong usage of the Iron Skin here. But if you look at it, the way that SPT is playing, they're always making sure that Blaze and Garrosh are the ones that are exposed. Melody C is just too quick, too fast, too furious to really get caught. The same can be said about Molly, who's playing a great Hanzo up to this point, always making sure that he uses his superior range to stay out of harm's way. And even when there's a Divine Shield on Greymane, even when there's a Zeratul engage, it's just not enough because especially those Lurking Arms have always been on point by ZZH. Easily one of his best games in this season up to this point.
Completely agree. He is absolutely on point so far, just creating all kinds of trouble for any member of RPG when they try to go in after that Entomb, which is their main engage tool right now.
Yeah, and it looks like SPT really did their homework. They analyzed RPG's playstyle so well. What is RPG known best for when you have players like Timeless in the mix? Well, clump up, focus a target down, move to the other one, rinse and repeat, right? What is SPT really good at? Analyzing their opponent's weaknesses. So they win for the Stuka of realizing, you know what, if we're just going to silence them while they clump up to get someone in the Entomb, to maybe burst them down with a VP, they're just not going to be able to do it, right? If you're silenced, you can't kill anyone. So kudos to them for reading their opponents super well.
Misaka looking for a kill. C has to use the Blessed Shield to try and get himself out of range, but Misaka chasing forward, but there are too many minions now. Going to be too difficult to get that swap. Now Soap is the target here. Gets a two-man stun, but C is still moving. The Entomb not getting that much value here as the silence is dropped perfectly. The Divine Shield keeping Timeless alive. They're trying to turn around as Chicken is so far the only one to die. This is the best hero to die if anyone is going to die. But there we go. Now we're seeing them start to turn it round. MJ completely caught out here. He will drop as well, and as will Timeless. Not able to get over the Bridge of Death, and that is going to be all but Zeratul going down.
Yeah, feels bad, man, when the 13 talent arrives when the team fight is already over and the fort destroyed. They just had to wait a little bit longer. Of course, it was probably them saying, okay, if we don't fight now, they're going to get this fort. They're probably going to get the 16 afterwards as well. So we need to make something happen right here, right now. Without the talent, though, you could really see how RPG felt extremely confused.